ever noticed that two people can experience the exact same situation, but their minds seem to approach it from completely different angles? One person might immediately start analyzing the information. They want to understand what is happening, what patterns exist, and what information can be gathered. Another person might immediately start thinking about what should happen next. They're considering what matters, what makes sense, or what decision needs to be made. Neither person is necessarily right or wrong. They are simply focused on different parts of the human experience. And this is where cognitive functions become fascinating. Because when we move beyond simple personality labels, we start discovering the deeper architecture behind how our minds actually work. Welcome back to Your Life Code. In the previous episodes, we have explored why personality matters, why simple personality labels only tell part of the story, and how objective personality gives us a framework for understanding the patterns behind human behavior. In episode 3, we introduced the 8 cognitive functions. These 8 functions are the building blocks that help explain how people perceive information, how they make decisions, but knowing the names of the functions is only the beginning, because the real breakthrough happens when we understand what these functions are actually doing. So today, we are answering the question, what do cognitive functions actually do? And the answer begins with 2 major categories, 2 different ways that people naturally interact with the world. The first category is observers. Observers are primarily concerned with information. They are focused on what information is available, what information is important, and how information is gathered. The second category is deciders. Deciders are primarily concerned with evaluation. They are focused on what matters, what is important, and how decisions should be made. This is the first major breakthrough. Before we even look at individual cognitive functions, we need to understand this fundamental difference. Some people are naturally more focused on information and the lack of information. Other people are naturally more focused on decisions. Cognitive functions are not simply personality traits. They are not just behaviors. They are not a checklist of things that you do. They are patterns of attention. They describe what your mind naturally prioritizes, what information you focus on, and what decisions you naturally consider important. Every person uses both observing and deciding processes. The question is not, am I an observer or a decider? The deeper question is, how does my mind naturally process information and make decisions? Because your personality is shaped by the unique pattern of cognitive functions that you prefer to use. And when we understand these patterns, we begin to understand something much deeper. Why people notice different things, why people value different things, why people make different choices, and why 2 people can experience the same world yet approach it in completely different ways. Before we explore the individual functions, let's look at where we are going in today's episode. In this episode, we are going to build the understanding step by step. First, we are going to explore the 2 major categories, observers and deciders. The people who are primarily focused on information and the people who are primarily focused on decisions. Then we will look more deeply into the observer category because observers are not all the same. Some observers are focused on controlling and organizing what they already know. Others are focused on gathering new information from the world around them. We will explore extroverted intuition, introverted intuition, introverted sensing, and extroverted sensing. After that, we will move into the decider category because deciders also have 2 different approaches. Some deciders are more focused on considering the tribe, the people, systems, and external world around them. Others are more focused on considering the self, their own values, reasons, and internal alignment. We will explore introverted feeling, and extroverted feeling, introverted thinking and extroverted thinking. And finally, we will bring everything together and look at the first major breakthrough, understanding that cognitive functions are not random personality traits. They are the mental tools that shape how we experience reality. So let's begin with the foundation. The human mind has two major jobs. The first is working with information. The second is deciding what that information means. Observers are focused on information. They ask, what am I noticing? What information am I working with? What do I need to understand? Deciders are focused on evaluation. They ask, what does this mean? What matters here? What decision should I make? And this distinction is where personality starts becoming much clearer, because instead of asking, what kind of person am I, we can begin asking, what does my mind naturally prioritize? Do I naturally focus on gathering and organizing information, or do I naturally focus on evaluating and deciding what matters? This is where the cognitive functions become a map of how your mind interacts with reality. So now that we understand the two major categories, let's take a closer look at the observer functions. Observers are focused on information. They are concerned with what information is available, what information is important, and how information is organized. But when we look closer, we discover that observers are not all doing the same thing. There are two different approaches. Some observers are focused on controlling and organizing what they already know. Others are focused on gathering new information from the world around them. The control observers are the introverted observer functions, introverted intuition and introverted sensing. These functions work with an internal library of information. They organize, refine, and manage what is already known. The gather observers are the extroverted observer functions, extroverted intuition, and extroverted sensing. These functions interact with the outside world by exploring and gathering new information. So, let's take a closer look at each of these functions. Let's begin with introverted intuition, or NI. In your life code, we call this My Known Ideas. It's a nickname. The core lens of NI is patterns and insights. NI is focused on organizing and refining a person's internal world of patterns and ideas. It is not primarily searching for endless new information. Instead, it takes information that has been gathered and works to understand the deeper pattern underneath it. NI asks questions like, what is really happening here? What is the deeper pattern? Where is this likely to lead? A person using NI often takes many pieces of information and compresses them into a central insight. It is the moment where separate ideas connect and suddenly create a clearer understanding. The strength of NI is its ability to recognize patterns, organize ideas, and create a focused understanding of what is happening beneath the surface. Next, we have extroverted intuition, or NE. In your life code, we call this gathering new ideas and possibilities, or my next ideas and possibilities. The core lens of NE is ideas and possibilities. NE is focused on exploring what could be. It gathers new ideas, connections, and possibilities from the world around it. While NI works with known ideas by refining and organizing them into deeper patterns, NE reaches outward and discovers what new ideas and possibilities are available. NE asks questions like, what else could this be? What other possibilities exist? What new connections can I discover? What could this become? A person using NE may encounter one idea and immediately begin expanding outward. One thought creates another. One possibility creates another. The mind explores many directions. The strength of NE is its ability to discover new possibilities, generate ideas, and expand the range of options available. Now we move to introverted sensing, or SI. In your life code, we call this My Known Facts. The core lens of SI is memory and experience. SI is focused on organising and maintaining an internal library of known facts, experiences, and references. It is not primarily searching for constant new experiences. Instead, it refines and applies what has already been learned. SI asks questions like, what do I already know about this? Have I experienced something like this before? What information can I rely on? A person using SI often builds understanding through comparison. They look at the current situation and compare it with stored experiences and established knowledge. The strength of SI is its ability to preserve, organise, and apply accumulated information. It creates stability through what is already known. Finally, we have extroverted sensing, or SE. In your life code, we call this gathering experiences and facts. The core lens of SE is reality and action. SE is focused on gathering information directly from the present moment. It interacts with what is happening right now. SE asks questions like, what is happening around me? What is available right now? What can I respond to? A person using SE is often highly aware of changes in their environment. They will notice what is present, they notice opportunities, they respond to what reality is showing them. The strength of SE is its ability to engage directly with the world and gather information through immediate experience. So when we look at the observer functions, we can see 4 different relationships with information. NI organizes known patterns and ideas. NE gathers new ideas and possibilities. SI organizes known facts and experiences. SE gathers experiences and facts from the present moment. None of these approaches are better than the others. They are simply different ways that the human mind interacts with information. And this is where understanding personality starts to become much more interesting, because the question is not which function is best. The question is, which functions does this person naturally rely on? What information does their mind consistently prioritize and consistently feel obligated towards and consistently feel that responsibility? It's not about like or dislike. So if observers are focused on information, what happens next? Once we have information, the mind has another job. It has to decide what that information means. And that brings us to the second half of our cognitive architecture, the decider functions. So we have now explored the first half of our cognitive architecture, the observer functions. Observers are focused on information. They help us understand how we interact with, organize, and gather information about the world around us. But information is only one part of the equation. Once we have information, the human mind has another important job. It has to evaluate that information. It has to decide what matters. It has to determine what is important and how should we respond. This is where we move into the second major category, the decider functions. Deciders are focused on evaluation. They answer questions like, what does this mean? What matters here? What should I do with this information? What decision makes sense? But just like observers, deciders are not all doing the same thing. There are 2 different approaches. Some deciders are focused on considering the self. Others are focused on considering the tribe. The self-focused deciders are the introverted deciding functions, introverted feeling and introverted thinking. These functions are focused on internal standards. They ask, does this align with what I know to be true? Does this make sense according to my own framework? The tribe-focused deciders are the extroverted decider functions, extroverted feeling and extroverted thinking. These functions are focused on external standards. They ask, how does this affect others? What works within the larger system? What creates alignment with the world around me? So let's take a closer look at each of these functions. Let's begin with introverted feeling, or FI. In your life code, we call this my values. The core lens of FI is personal alignment. FI is focused on understanding what is personally meaningful and what aligns with an individual's internal values. It asks questions like, is this true for me? Does this align with what I believe? Does this feel authentic? A person using FI often evaluates situations through their own internal sense of what matters. They are interested in authenticity, personal meaning, and staying connected to what feels right internally. The strength of FI is its ability to recognize personal values and maintain alignment with what feels deeply meaningful. Next, we have extroverted feeling, or FE. In your life code, we call this tribe values. The core lens of FE is social alignment. FE is focused on considering people and the values of the group around us. It asks questions like, how are other people experiencing this? What matters to the tribe? How can we create harmony? A person using FE often pays attention to relationships, shared values, social expectations, and the emotional atmosphere of a situation. The strength of FE is its ability to understand people, create connection, and consider the values and needs of the wider group. Now we move to introverted thinking, or TI. In your life code, we call this my logic or my reasons. The core lens of TI is internal accuracy. TI is focused on understanding how things work and creating a logical framework that makes sense internally. It asks questions like, is this logically consistent? How does this system work? Does this explanation actually make sense? A person using TI often wants to break things down, analyze the pieces, and create a clear understanding of the underlying principles. The strength of TI is its ability to seek precision, clarity, and internal logical consistency. Finally, we have extroverted thinking, or TE. In your life code, we call this tribe reasons. The core lens of TE, external effectiveness. TE is focused on considering the external world and the reasons, systems, and methods that create effective results. It asks questions like, what is the most effective approach? What reasons support this decision? What system will produce the best results? What needs to happen to move this forward? A person using TE often pays attention to organization, efficiency, measurable outcomes, and practical solutions that work within the wider environment. The strength of TE is its ability to create structure, improve systems, and apply effective reasoning to real-world problems. So when we look at the decider functions, we can see 4 different ways of evaluating information. FI considers personal values. FE considers tribe values. TI considers internal logic, and TE considers tribe reasons. None of these approaches are better than the others. They are simply different ways that the human mind decides what matters. And this brings us to the first major breakthrough of cognitive functions. Because these functions are not random personality traits, they are not simply things we like or dislike. They represent patterns of attention, patterns in what we naturally focus on, patterns in what we repeatedly evaluate. The deeper question is not which functions sound like me. The deeper question is, which functions does my mind consistently rely on when navigating life? Because understanding personality is not just about describing ourselves. It is about understanding the patterns that shape the way we experience the world. Now that we understand observers and deciders, we can begin putting these pieces together, because the real magic happens when we see how these functions combine into unique personality patterns. So today, we have taken our first major step into understanding the architecture of the mind. We started with a simple but powerful idea. Cognitive functions are not just personality traits. They are patterns of attention. They describe what our minds naturally focus on, how we organize information, and how we evaluate what matters. We discovered that there are 2 major categories of cognitive functions. The first is Observers. Observers are focused on information. They are concerned with what information is available or missing, what information is important, and how information is organised. They're focused on things, not people. Within the observer category, we discovered two different approaches. The first is control observers. These are the introverted observer functions. They work on what is already known. They organise, refine, and manage existing information. These include introverted intuition, my known ideas, and introverted sensing, my known facts. The second is gather observers. These are the extroverted observer functions. They interact with the outside world by gathering new information. These include extroverted intuition, gathering new ideas and possibilities, and extroverted sensing, gathering experiences and facts. Then we explored the second major category, deciders. Deciders are focused on evaluation. They help us determine what matters and how we should respond, decisions. Within the decider category, we discovered two different approaches. The first is self-focused deciders. These functions consider internal standards. They include introverted feeling, my values, and introverted thinking, my logic. The second is tribe-focused deciders. These functions consider the wider group, systems, and external standards. They include extroverted feeling, the tribe values, and extroverted thinking, the tribe's reasons. And this is the first major breakthrough. When we understand cognitive functions, we are not simply learning 8 different labels. We are learning the different ways that human beings interact with reality. Some people naturally focus on information, some on decisions. Some people gather new information, some organize what they already know. Some people consider the self, and some consider the tribe. And none of these approaches are better than the others. They are simply different ways of navigating the world. The next step is where things become even more interesting, because understanding these categories gives us the map, but the individual functions show us how the map works. In the next lesson, we're going to go deeper into the observer functions. We will explore how each observer function experiences information differently. We will look at introverted intuition and how it organizes known patterns and ideas, extroverted intuition and how it gathers new ideas and possibilities, introverted sensing and how it organizes known facts and experiences, and extroverted sensing and how it gathers experiences and facts from the world around us. As we go deeper into each function, you may start recognizing patterns in yourself and the people around you. You may begin to understand why some people are constantly exploring new possibilities while others are refining what they already know. Why some people are focused on the bigger pattern while others are focused on the immediate reality in front of them. And this is where personality starts becoming more than a label. It becomes a way of understanding the unique way your mind interacts with the world. In the next episode, we begin decoding the observer functions. This is your life code. Thanks for watching.